Hi guys, welcome back to the Cheers podcast. I'm your host Avery Woods. We're going to do a little catch up. I did an Instagram Q&A as well as an advice column and we had lots of people submit lots of things. So we're going to talk all about it. I kind of went back and forth on if I want to talk about this or not, but ultimately this guest did come on to this podcast and unfortunately things did not turn out the way that I had expected or hoped. So let's go over some of the stuff that you guys wanted to talk about. We got lots of saucy questions. One of the first is how to know if you've orgasmed. Lots of people asking how I feel about the TikTok ban. What are you asking for Christmas? That's so funny. What is something you've tried in the bedroom but will never do again? The amount of people asking if we're having more kids is insane. Lots of questions about the sober journey. All right, here's the thing. Hi. Welcome to Cheers. I'm your host. Hi guys, welcome back to the Cheers podcast. I'm your host Avery Woods. I'm so happy to be with you today. We're going to do a little catch up. I did an Instagram Q&A as well as an advice column and we had lots of people submit lots of things. So we're going to talk all about it. But before we get into it, I do want to address something and I kind of went back and forth on if I want to talk about this or not because I did already publicly address it in some comments on TikTok, but ultimately this guest did come on to this podcast and I did give her a platform and unfortunately things did not turn out the way that I had expected or hoped. And this is regarding Hannah who started the 17 diapers trend. And I just want to talk through my thoughts on that as well as apologize to every single one of our listeners, everyone that watches us on social media and gives our guests an extra platform and social media attention. My regret is we did not do enough research on this person before inviting her onto the podcast, and that is solely our fault. I take 100% responsibility of that. When the 17 diapers trend was going on, I did not know who the creator was. I had never seen her videos. I had never followed her. The only reason that it was brought to my attention was because myself and the Cheers podcast was being tagged thousands and thousands of times in a video that she had made saying, my dream is to be on the Cheers podcast, which I was very flattered about. And I had seen the 17 diapers trend from other moms. I had seen, my 17 diapers is X, Y, and Z. I didn't know what that had meant at the time until we were getting tagged over and over again. And it was, let's get the 17 diapers mom on Cheers because she was going through a bunch of hate on the internet, which that was the sole reason I wanted her on the podcast is I wanted to give her an opportunity to spread positivity, which is the exact reason why I started the Cheers podcast. I wanted a platform for people in the social media world, in the public eye, to talk about the positive impact that they are creating, to bring positive attention to them because the industry that we work in is so negative and we're constantly being bashed. We're constantly getting hate comments. We're getting death threats. We're getting DMs that are so nasty. And I feel like a lot of podcasts really thrive on getting the tea, right? They want every detail of these people's lives in order to get views and monetization. That is not why I started this podcast. I started this podcast to humanize people that have been dehumanized by an audience and by the public, and that can really weigh on people. And I know personally it's weighed on me. As you guys know, I really struggled with my mental health in the beginning of the year because of social media. And I did not do enough research on this girl. I regret that so much. I didn't know anything about her quote nursing career. I had never seen anything regarding the way she was treating her children. It's such a big regret that I have that I gave her this platform without doing more research, but it's a lesson that we have learned and we will never make that mistake again. It will never happen again. We will do everything in our power to make sure that whoever is on this podcast deserves a platform to receive positivity. Now, obviously, it was money out of my own pocket that I flew her out here. I put her in a hotel, and I thought I was doing something good. I thought that, I was giving this tired mom a break away from her kids. I was giving her a positive platform because she, was trying to grow on social media in order to provide for her family. That's how I saw it, but I didn't know enough. And there was a moment on her podcast interview that things kind of started clicking for me, that I realized I did not do enough research on this girl and she was not being honest about her nursing career. And if you had listened to the episode before it was deleted, then you might remember when I said, "Oh, and where'd you go to nursing school?" And she said, "Oh, I graduated nursing school in high school." And I remember immediately looking over at Scott and I was like, "Oh no." Because obviously I'm a registered nurse. I went to nursing school. I know the education it requires. I know the time and sacrifice it requires in order to put those two letters after your name, RN. And it is not something that you can get in high school. And I immediately thought in my head, oh my God, you're a CNA. And I felt so uncomfortable because I knew immediately that the nursing community was going to be like, Avery, what the fuck? Because I'm literally talking to this girl like she is a nurse because she's telling me she's a nurse at a long-term care facility. And she's like, I know that that's not typical, for a nurse to work in long-term care, but I thoroughly enjoy it. So because in my head, it is kind of unusual for a registered nurse to work at a long-term care facility unless they really enjoy it, there's different types of nursing for everyone, or it's very accommodating with a family schedule. So I didn't think twice about it. I thought, oh yeah, you have a newborn, you have a young child, and maybe that schedule's great for you. And then when she told me she graduated nursing school, quote unquote, in high school, and she worked for a long-term care facility, I said, oh my God, you're a nursing assistant. And when you work your ass off to go to nursing school and get that education and you take that NCLEX, it is a privilege to call yourself a nurse because you worked so fucking hard for it. And that's something I'm still so proud of, even though I'm not using my license currently. But I just immediately was like, oh my God. Internally, I was freaking out. And that's when I kind of tried to shift with questions. And again, I knew in my head I should have done more research on this girl. But again, I flew her out here to try to give her a positive platform when it comes to 17 diapers. That was my goal. My goal was, you got a lot of shit. You got canceled up the ass because of the 17 diapers trend. Which, do I think it's normal to have 17 dirty diapers in your house after like a day or so? No, I don't. Do I think mom shaming is okay? I don't think mom shaming is okay if it's not validated, if it's not warranted. I loved the positivity that came out of the trend, and that's what I wanted to focus on. And I wanted to focus on how something really negative was turned into something really positive for her. But when she left, Scott and I immediately had that conversation of, oh no, I don't think that she is being honest about her career, her education. And right away, when that episode went live, we were getting comments from the nursing community because obviously I have a lot of nurses that follow me, which I'm so grateful for you guys. A lot of nurses from the nursing community were like, oh my God, why is she on your podcast? She has been so toxic in the nursing world with patient safety issues. There was a couple other things that people had listed, but I don't really remember what they were. But apparently, she was in a shit ton of controversy before the 17 diapers thing regarding the nursing world, and I had no idea. And I'm actually one of my good friends that is a nurse and has a large social media platform was like, yeah, dude, she like got in a shit ton of trouble because of some things that she was posting as a nurse. And then it came to light that she was a CNA and not a nurse. And I was like, oh, fuck. I'm talking to this girl like she's a registered nurse right next to me. And I feel like a fucking idiot. So, and again, this was something that I honestly probably wouldn't have even had her on the podcast, to be completely transparent with you, if I was not tagged so many times publicly in her video by people like, at Avery Woods, let's give her, a positive platform. Let's grow her audience. Let's turn this negative thing into something positive. And I'm trying to jump on it to, again, spread light and make it a positive thing for her, because I felt bad in the moment because I know what it's like to be canceled. And it sucks and you feel really alone. And I didn't have anyone to do that for me. And so I wanted to be that person for her. And then we find out about the nursing stuff, which I was immediately like, oh no. But in my head, I was like, let's just go live with the episode because we're focusing on 17 diapers. We're not focused on her past nursing career fuck ups that she shared online or whatever the case may be. I want to focus on something positive. And then the shit with her kids came out. And that is not something I tolerate. My dad was severely abused as a child. And I don't know if I've talked about that, but my dad has veneers all in his top teeth because he was beaten so bad as a child that all of his teeth were black and blue. Um, on his upper teeth, he was locked in a garage for days at a time, given one piece of bread to eat. He was a major athlete, but his parents wouldn't buy him tennis shoes, not because they couldn't afford it, but just because they were not the most loving parents to him. So he would run track and field barefoot, and his coaches would buy him shoes. David was also physically abused as a child. And I'm not going to go into detail with that because that's not my story to tell. I'm not going to sit here and talk about that. If that's something that David feels comfortable with in the future, maybe one day he will talk about that. But he did not grow up being punished by his parents in the way that I would ever punish my kids. My kids have never even been spanked. I don't believe in that. And I'm not going to come on here and tell parents that you can't spank your kids, you're a bad parent. But when my kids are on a playground and some kid pushes my kids aren't pushing them back. And I think it's really hard when we tell our kids, you can't push someone, you can't hit someone, but then their parents are hitting them or pushing them at home in order to punish them. It's like a double-edged sword. So if their parents are hitting them, of course they're going to kind of reflect that behavior on other kids. And again, I'm not trying to teach a lesson to people or teach you how to raise your kids. I'm just telling you the experiences and things that I've seen of why I don't believe in physical punishment for my children. Aside from David, the things that I saw working as a PICU nurse are things that I don't wish upon anybody. Those are things that don't even make the news. It's hard to really go into details without exposing these families and kids in HIPAA, but I have seen kids beaten to death, literally beaten to death. And that's not an exaggeration. That is, a kid would come in and unfortunately they were brain dead um because they were hit so hard by their parents. I've seen kids physically punished to death where they were required to work out as a physical punishment, and they were so starved and it was so severe that they died. I've had infants suffocated. I had an infant once that had, it was either 12 or 15 broken bones. And when I say infant, I mean less than 3 months old, um, by their parents. So I have seen things that are the unthinkable, and it just really hits home for me. David has also seen the same type of thing working in law enforcement for as long as he did. And I remember one time he got an award at work because there was a baby. Well, he I can't remember if it was a he or she. I think it was a little boy, but someone in an apartment complex had called the police. He was walking around, so he was, I don't know, between 10 months and 1.5 probably, diaper sagging on the ground. David said he was so caked in dirt, they couldn't even tell his ethnicity because he was so dirty. And his diaper was so full, it was literally dragging on the ground. And someone called saying this baby is just walking around this apartment complex completely. It was like the middle of the night. David worked 2 to midnight. So it was like 10, 11 p.m. And I remember he came home so late that night because he was taking care of this little boy. And so David went to the apartment complex, and him and one of our really good friends was also with him, who we love her so much. She's still such a great friend of ours. And they later found out this little boy was covered in lice. So David had to like fully treat his whole body, but he took this little boy, and mom was a prostitute, so that's why he was left. So mom was out working the streets, and this little boy was left by himself. And David took him back to the station while he waited for CPS. And that's another thing, is that the system is so fucking broken. There was so many times that I could not believe some of these parents were able to take their kids back home. And it broke my heart because I couldn't do anything about it, and I knew that they were going back to a really shitty environment, and it was so hard. And David and I were always like, God, I wish we could just take them home. Like, I would just have a house full of kids if I could, you know? And so David took him back to the station. He picked him up some food. I think it was like French fries from McDonald's or something. I can't even remember. And he took him to the station, fully bathed him so he was clean. He found a pair of clothes from, I don't even know, I think they were doing like they would do a lot of domestic violence drives. Like, we would donate a lot of shoes and clothes and stuff. So I think they found some clothes or something from one of those situations. So David bathed him, got him dressed, and then they had at the station what was called a quiet room, where it was just dark. There was a lot of like lounge chairs for officers that maybe worked graveyards or just needed like a break. Obviously, they see a lot of really shitty stuff. And David took off his duty vest, and this little boy fell asleep on him in that room for like hours. Like, literally just on his chest. David just rocked him to sleep. Until they could get someone. I think they were able to contact a family member, relative that was able to take him. But David received an award for that, as he should, because he was such he was such a dedicated officer for his city. But, you know, that obviously hit very close to home for him because he's a dad. But I just want to reiterate that I have so much regret giving her a platform, because the things that I've seen in some of these videos, zooming in, oh my God, it just makes me really sad. And like, for example, I was telling David, like, when I make myself food, like the other day, I made the Trader Joe's dumplings, like the soup dumplings. And Stevie was like, "Can I have a bite of that?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was starving. I had eaten all day. And Stevie's like, "Can I have a bite?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I feel like my kids are like slightly becoming picky eaters, and we hate that. So I'm trying to like acclimate them to eat whatever we're eating. And so I give her a bite, and she's like, "I love that. I want all of it." I was like, "Okay, baby." And I gave her the entire tray. Like, it's not even a question when it's your kid. Like, you give them whatever they need. And if that means I suffer, I mean, suffer, quote unquote suffer. Like, if I didn't have anything else to eat in the entire house and I was hungry all fucking day, I wouldn't even think twice about it, because she's fed and happy and she's eating something that she enjoys and she likes. That's what parenting is. You don't have kids if you aren't able to give that to your kids. It's the most selfless love. You don't even think about it. And even David was like, I would literally experience the most torturous death for eternity if it meant that my kids were healthy and happy and safe. And that's just what it means to be a parent. And the fucking flicking with the reaching for the food, like it just killed me. The flinching is not normal. And I'm telling you, as someone that worked in a level one trauma pediatric ICU that had to be trained to look for signs of child abuse, if I went like that in my kid's face, they would probably laugh at me. Because never in my life have I ever put my hands on them in a negative way. And even with the food, like, especially when it comes to, like, just grocery shopping and you're putting food in a cart, like, my kids would never they would never flinch like that. So, I don't know, I have a lot of regret, and I just wanna apologize to all of you that, are so dedicated to us and this platform and something that we've worked really hard to grow, because we wouldn't have it if it wasn't for you, and my only intention with having her as a guest was I was trying to spread positivity and give her a positive platform because, again, I was empathetic in the sense of the cancellation part, but I regret not doing the research. I regret giving her a platform. And so I just want to apologize to all of you and promise that we will do better next time. We will do more research when it comes to our guests. And we've even had a couple people that have reached out trying to get on the podcast recently that we have turned down because we have learned our lesson. And I don't want to give people a platform that they don't deserve. So, again, I apologize. We apologize. And if you've seen any of my responses or anything publicly on TikTok, then you'll know that all of those episodes are gone. All of the content's gone on social media. As soon as that video came out about her child flinching, I told Scott, I said, get rid of everything. I don't want a trace of that shit on Cheers because doesn't deserve it, and I just feel so sad for her children. So that's kind of where we stand. Everything's gone, everything's deleted, and all the social clips are gone, and all I want is for her kids to be healthy and happy and safe, and I really hope that they can either change their ways as parents and learn from this, or her kids can be in someone else's custody where they are safe and loved no matter what. I wanted to make sure, so we just looked it up on the Utah State Board of Nursing, but she is an LPN, not a CNA. So that's my fault. I assumed that she was a CNA because she said she graduated nursing school in high school, but she is an LPN, a licensed practical nurse, which is why she does not work in a hospital. So that is still not a registered nurse. So again, very frustrating, very frustrating. All right, well, now that that is over and past and we are moving on, let's go over some of the stuff that you guys wanted to talk about. And I will say the number one thing is my ring, which I find so funny. And so here's the thing. Last December, which is a year ago, that's crazy. This year has flown by. I don't know where the fuck the time went. Last December, if you follow me on TikTok, then you probably saw first of all, I've never had a wedding band. I had one from Pandora in order for us to get married. I think it cost $80, but I had never had like an official wedding band. So we hit our 10-year like dating anniversary. And I told David, I was like, I really want a wedding band. And the center stone of my original engagement ring was a morganite, and it was getting so cloudy. And the reason I did a morganite was because A, they were very trendy and I loved like that champagne kind of pinky color because I love rose gold. And B, we did not have a lot of money. So the center stone of my from my morganite, I think it was like $700. It was super inexpensive. So it was getting really clouded and I brought it to the jewelers. And again, this was December of last year. And I was like, I really want to replace the center stone with a diamond and also get a wedding band made. Now, my diamond, by the way, is massive and it's a lab grown diamond. So I don't want to hear shit from anyone. If I would have done a real diamond, this thing would have been like 100 plus K, I'm sure. So I did a lab grown diamond in my original engagement setting. And then I had a eternity wedding band made. Now, about a year's passed, I've had to take that ring to the jewelers, no lie, probably 4 times because my original engagement setting was so high. I was constantly knocking it on shit and it was loose. Like even Scott would laugh because it would rattle. Like you could hear the diamond rattling in the prongs. You don't want an almost 5 carat diamond rattling. Okay, that's concerning because that means it could pop out at any moment. So the last time I took it in, I was like, look, I can't keep doing this. Uh, I feel like we need to either add some prongs or change the setting or lower it. What can we do? And this is the original jeweler that made my original engagement ring. So I kind of loved that because it was really special. And he was like, look, the setting is super high, but that's because you have the 4 petals around the diamond. And if it's lowered, it's going to scrape on your eternity band and start scuffing up the diamonds. So he's like, I think we should just make a new setting. And I was like, okay. And he said, I think we should do 6 prongs around the diamonds. We added 2 extra prongs. And I literally just had him copy and paste my wedding band. So I'll kind of hold them up. I'm sure Scott can zoom at some point on this edit. But you can see my eternity band is just a plain band. And he literally copied it identical. And then he added 6 prongs and put my same stone in it. So the only thing I changed was the band. And he did it the band rose gold like my wedding band, but he did the prongs with white gold, which was actually one of the ladies' recommendations at the jewelers because if it was rose gold, it would kind of taint the diamond a little bit yellow, and I didn't want that. So the white gold makes it nice and bright and white and shiny, which I love. And he was able to lower it a ton. So it's much more secure. And then I saved my original engagement setting as well as my original morganite that David proposed with upstairs in my jewelry box so we can give it to one of our kids when they get engaged or want to propose or whatever the case may be because I thought it was really special to keep that. And if they don't want to use it, then I can transform it into some sort of jewelry. He was like, you can literally melt down this metal and use it for whatever you want. So it was the right thing to do because I was honestly just unsafe wearing it. I was like never wearing my engagement ring because it was always loose and I didn't want to lose a diamond. I was terrified. So I love it. I think it's very classic. It's very shiny. And this is my 10-year upgrade. So we love that. I was gonna do it for our 10-year vow renewal, but I was like, whatever. We've been dating for 10 years, over 10 years now, so I deserve it. So that's the update on my ring. We got lots of saucy questions. One of the first is how to know if you've orgasmed. Is it the same as getting wet? The bed is wet. Also, this is so embarrassing. You're gonna know. You'll know. It's not the same as getting wet. You'll know. I don't really know how to explain it. It's kind of like fireworks or euphoria. Like you're building up a big climb and then you just kind of like 4th of July, you know? It's like something like that. That's the best way I can describe it. But yeah, you'll know. Getting wet is just kind of like the lead up to it. But from your profile picture, I can tell you're definitely in a relationship. So here's my suggestion. Get yourself a vibrator. That will get you to that firework explosion, my girl. I got you. What are you asking for Christmas? That's so funny. Uh, everyone in my life knows, don't spend money on me. I want sentimental gifts. Like I want you to get me a photo book. I want you to make a little thing with my kids, like a little art project. Or I tell David, like, plan a little one night getaway away from the kids, or we can pretend like we're getting pregnant over and over and over again, you know? Something like that. What is something you've tried in the bedroom but will never do again? Uh, a gag ball? You didn't know that? Oh, Scott's like, what the fuck? Yeah, I didn't like that. That made me feel like I was suffocating. And thank God that my husband is so sweet and he's not like a dominating man at all. Like, if I'm like, get it the fuck off me, he will do that. He's not gonna be like 50 Shades of Grey, like, no, you're gonna take it. No, he always tells me, he's like, if I think I'm like hurting you or making you uncomfortable, it literally couldn't be more of a turn off for me. He's like, I can't get turned on by that. He's like, I get turned on by knowing like you're getting pleasure type thing. So one time we tried a gag ball, and I'm talking, this was like, I think I was in nursing school. So fucking like 2016. Like this is a long, long time ago. God, that's 8 years ago. I'm getting old. Shit. Shit. 30 this year. You guys know what I realized I miss? 30 under 30 for Forbes. It's really a big disappointment, but I got my own spread in Forbes, so that kind of counts. Also, apparently there's 40 under 40, so maybe I'll make that at 30. That would be iconic. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. I'm like, squirrel. But yeah, the gag ball made me feel like I was choking, but also I have really bad TMJ, and I didn't like how wide you have to open your mouth to get it in. I felt like an animal at a zoo. Like I didn't like that. It was like having like a bark collar mask on me as an animal. I don't like it. Yeah. So I'll never do that again. The amount of people asking if we're having more kids is insane. Dave and I had this conversation last night in the jacuzzi, and I feel like we're not no, but we're not yes right now. We kind of decided we have a lot of things coming up this next year, like really exciting things, especially with my career and some other shenanigans that you'll find out about later. But I just don't feel right having another baby right now because I feel like I want to be able to dedicate everything to that baby, especially being so young. Like, you guys know breastfeeding is really important for me, and being able to, like, I have never like had a night nurse or any of that shit. Like, I do everything myself, and that's very important for me and for the baby. And so with stuff I have coming up with work, it requires a lot of travel and commitment. And my kids are at an age right now where they're such good travelers, like they can get up and go anywhere with me or just stay at home with David. So we kind of were like, well, if we did it, it would probably be in like 3-ish years, maybe. But then at that point, it's like Stevie's 6 years old. So it's like, do we start over? And also, David's 36. So he's like, I don't really know if I want a newborn in my 40s, which I don't blame him for that. You know, I'm turning 30 this year, and I feel like I'm just now getting my pink back, which I've talked about. Like, I am not the kind of person that's like, oh, I'm ready to go. I'm bouncing back right away. I'm feeling great. It took me years to come back into myself after having young children. And Stevie's turning 4 in May, and I feel like I'm finally in my groove. My career is taking off. So it's hard to justify having another baby right now. And I don't say that in a selfish way. I say that in a selfless way for the baby because I want to make sure that I'm fully committed and able to do that because with Ziggy and Stevie, I was working full time as a registered nurse when they were little. So I had to spend a lot of time away from them working really long shifts, and it was really hard. And so I always told David, like, if we were to have another kid, I it would be almost like a redemption moment for me. And I'm not saying that in the sense of like my kids didn't have a great life as babies. That's not true. But I would want to take it really slow. I would just want to enjoy every moment, log off, just dedicate time at home with all my babies and just soak it in, especially knowing it's my last. So, I don't know. We'll see. TBD, but I can't say for sure. Any collabs you can share or give us a teaser about? Well, my Mayfair restocked this last week and it sold out in a day for the restock. So maybe something in 2025 to do another one. So that might be an option. Maybe. Wink, wink. I can't really wink very well with my nose because it's like kind of still frozen. And not a collab, but something really cool is happening with the podcast. And that's all I can say about it. And it's going to blow all your fucking minds. You're going to be like, Avery Woods, are you sure you got the right person? And I'm going to be like, I know, right? Like, why the fuck me? It's crazy. It's actually crazy. And it's been months and months in the making, which is kind of nuts because that's one thing I'm kind of learning as a businesswoman now. Because this was never like my realm. I never went to school for business or I just don't know a lot about it. But in this world, because people will say it's not a business, it's a business. It's a business. That's why I have so many LLCs, okay? Tina, leave me alone. Whatever the fuck your names are, trying to give me shit. But I did not realize that when you negotiate, well, I don't negotiate, my team negotiates. God bless them. Okay. There's a lot of legal things that come into it, like a lot of long-term legal contracts that take months and months and months and months of negotiating and going back and forth. And one side will say, oh, we want this change. And the other side will say, okay, well, we want this change. And it goes back and forth. And we're talking like 30 to 60 page documents. So there's like entertainment attorneys involved and my management team, agency. There's a lot of things that go into it, and it's really hard for me just to kind of like sit back and wait because as soon as I hear word of something, I'm like, oh my God, okay, when can we tell everyone? And it's not like that. You have to wait for it to kind of progress. So something really exciting is happening in the new year, and I can't wait to share. And it's far beyond Scott and I's wildest dreams, is all I can say. And we've been waiting for the right time and the right thing to come along, especially because with this podcast, it was very important for me to be able to have Scott with me. I wasn't just gonna leave him on the street like a stray dog. He's like outside barking. He's like, "Let me in." So, so yeah, Scott's coming along. Lots of questions about the sober journey. All right, here's the thing. I tried it. I did. I tried it really hard. And not like I'm okay, hold on. This sounds really bad. I stopped drinking in August for about 3 months straight. I would say a solid 3 months. I didn't have a single drink of alcohol. Now, I would say I maybe have 2 drinks a month. And I'm being so for real about that. I'm not gonna like lie and over exaggerate and say just a little bit when really it's a lot because I just don't give a shit anymore. Because people always have some shit to say to me, and I just really don't care. Sometimes I just need a nice, expensive glass of wine to get through my day, and I'm not gonna lie about that. But what I've kind of narrowed it down to is, 1, I don't count on alcohol like I used to, and I think that 3-month break really helped me with that. It also showed me that I don't need alcohol in order to, first of all, have a good time. Like, do you guys remember when I went fucking sober a week before I went to Las Vegas with all of my friends? I didn't have a single drink, and I had so much fun. I don't need alcohol in order to function. So, I would say it kinda comes down to if David and I have a date night, sometimes I'll have a drink, sometimes I'll just have a Diet Coke. Like, last time we went on a date, I just had a Diet Coke with a lime. Sometimes, like, for Thanksgiving, I had a glass of wine for a holiday, but I have no and I had explained this before, like, when I decided to take a break from drinking, it wasn't, "I wanna be sober forever," it was, "I wanna see how it goes to see if it can help change my unhealthy habits," and it 100% did, and I will never go back to my habits the way that they were, but I think it taught me balance and taught me that I'm able to just have 1 glass of wine or 1 drink at dinner, and I don't need to have 3 and also take an edible to completely numb my mind. And that was the point I was at in the beginning of the year in like springtime because that was when I became like, really unhealthy and suicidal because my mental health was depleting. So the only option I felt like I had was numbing it, which was not doing anything good for me at all. And I feel so free of that now. And even I just saw a TikTok from like, your memories will come up from 1 year ago. And I saw a TikTok of me getting ready for Pilates. Oh my God, my face is so fucking puffy and like round. And I was like, and I was still doing Pilates like I am now. But the only difference is I was drinking so heavily at that time. So I'm very proud of the progress that I made. I don't regret cutting back. And I'm glad that I've kind of just slowly integrated it back in my life, but in a healthy way. And David's kind of done the same, which is really cool. And it helps a lot because obviously we're together 24/7. And he's like, it kind of pushed me to take a step back as well. And again, I'm not saying like drinking is awful. Like, I saw something on a TikTok the other day that was saying, I'm having a really hard time with people talking about their sober journey because I like to go out with my friends and have fun. And I think that's totally okay. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with going out and drinking. I think I had an unhealthy relationship with alcohol at that time in my life, and I've since learned balance. I also think marijuana has helped me immensely. Okay. My anxiety, well, I won't say it's gone, but I feel much calmer. It's like my decompression at the end of the night when the kids go down. I sleep like a fucking baby. I used to struggle so bad with insomnia and I would have the worst dreams because my anxiety was so high and I was so stressed all the time. So a little Eddie doesn't hurt here and there. And I also feel like when I have that, I don't need a drink. Like David and I, the kids will go down. Like last night they went down. We sat in the jacuzzi. We smoked a little joint together. I don't need alcohol. I'm feeling great. And then we had amazing sex and went to bed. So it's really just the life that I love living, you know? Update on you and Cecily. I don't really know what there is to update. Uh, After we made the podcast episode, Sam immediately unfollowed me and Scott. Sorry, Scott, you were taken out on. She took that out on you. But Cecily still follows me on everything. So I think she went about it in a mature way. A lot of people were trying to ask me too, and I don't even care about talking about this anymore. Like it's over and done with, but I also feel like, I talked about it publicly, so I deserve to give people updates because someone had commented on our TikTok, and the only reason I saw it was because I was getting tagged in it. And one thing about me is I don't check tags or mentions unless I'm on the app and it like drops down. And I saw it drop down and I clicked on it and someone said, like, you need to apologize to Avery or something. And she had said, I apologized to her in private. And someone else said, well, you publicly dissed her. You need to give a public apology, which I, I don't care. I don't need a public apology. It doesn't need to be this whole thing. She gets dragged through the mud so much that it doesn't need to make another snowball effect for her. She doesn't deserve that. She did call me, but Sam called me first, and I was very honest with Sam and I just said, you have nothing to do with this situation. I said, I respect you as a person. My issue has nothing to do with your business or your pajama line. This is between Cecily and myself. So, we can talk about it. But you're like a third party in this, and I'm sure she was upset and unfollowed because I talked about the color pop thing, but I was just trying to give examples of, my loyalty as a friend to Cecily. So I don't know if Sam unfollowed me and Scott because she was embarrassed or what the case may be, but uh, you know, whatever, no sweat off my back. And so Cecily had commented and saying, she apologized in private. She called me the day before the podcast went live. It was already recorded. I'm not going to go into detail about the conversation. It was, I don't know. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I'm not going to beat someone when they're down either. So she called me, but I told her very honestly, I said, we recorded the podcast episode. I feel backed into a corner to have to defend myself and my reputation and my brand because I do feel like my integrity and my friendship to you was questioned when it didn't need to be. And, I would have defended you tenfold. And so it was really hurtful. My feelings were hurt. And so I'm going to talk about it. And she was like, I understand. And so I had told her it was going to go live and she, still follows me, which I respect. And that's that. So I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but that's kind of where we stand. So please tell me when your brand plans on dropping. Oh my God. Okay, so this has been in the making for so long. And I like, oh my God, the amount of work and effort and money that goes into starting a business is crazy, but I wouldn't want it any other way because I will not settle until this shit is perfect. I don't care if it takes 3 years. Also, we are fully self-funding. Like we never even took out business loans or anything. It's just fully all of our own money because I feel like when you do it that way, you want to make sure it's done right. And I'm so particular because it's all of my hard work that I'm pouring into something that I'm really passionate about. If you've been here for a while or followed me for a while, then you'll know I found a old Instagram Q&A I did like 4 or 5 years ago, and it was like, "If you weren't a nurse and you were to start a business, what would it be?" And I said the business that I'm starting, and it's crazy because it's never changed. Like, I've literally always wanted to do this. It's always been my number one passion. It's the reason why I wanted to experiment in aesthetic nursing, because I wanted an education about it. I am just so passionate about it, and I wanna make sure it's done right. I have gotten a few samples back, and it's not what I wanted, and so we immediately sent it back, and I don't care if that costs a shit ton of money. It's not right, and I'm not gonna put it out to try to sell it to gain money, because I'm not gonna do that with the people that follow and support me and wanna support my product. Like, when I put that shit out for sale, it's gonna be perfection. It's gonna be what I use every single day. It's gonna be I don't care if it takes 20 tries. It's not gonna be able to be purchased until it's right. And that's what I think it requires to start a really good and reputable brand and business, because this is something that I want to be my end all be all. And I want to be able to, in 5-ish years down the road, take a little bit of a step back from social media. And I mean, like, not disappear, but not have to post, 3 to 5 times a day on TikTok. I want to be able to focus as a brand owner, a CEO, a creative director on this brand that I'm so excited about. So we're still in the stages of, narrowing down the product. We've been going over the logo, the packaging, um, trying to plan some shoots for the future. So I'm really excited about it, and I cannot wait for you guys to try it. And I hope you love it. And if you don't, that's okay. But yeah, I've become very particular about certain things and products, and I got to a point where I was like, why don't I just make it myself? Like, I love a little bit of this product. I love a little bit of this product, a little bit of this product. I was like, why don't I just mesh everything I love together and create my own? And so that's what I'm working on. But I'm hoping maybe in a year, we'll have a little sneaker peeker. Lots of people asking how I feel about the TikTok ban. Here's the thing. I don't know shit about politics or the government or all of that. Okay. I'm not going to lie. I try to learn my best when it comes to elections and stuff, but it's so complicated and over my head. So at this point, they denied carrying out the vote because apparently, and this is all what I've learned on TikTok, okay, which is not the news. So don't take it from me. I think it's the Biden administration wants it gone, but Trump wants it to stay. So from what I'm understanding, they're trying to get it to pass to be banned before the inauguration, but that is just going to prevent people from being able to download the app through the App Store, but existing users can still use it. But then they're saying that Trump could try to reverse it when he's in office. So I don't fucking know. All I have to say is thank God for the podcast. Thank God for Instagram. Thank God for investing my money. And thank God for having my house paid off, because I would be freaking the fuck out. I'm not going to lie. It's also thank God that I, have a previous career. I could go back tomorrow if I wanted to work. My old manager is always like, "Hey, you want to come back 1 day a week?" And I'm like, I would rather die, but maybe after the ban. I just It's really hard when you take a leap to better your family's life and then that kind of gets put in jeopardy, because I have a lot of people that I have to take care of. So it's a lot of pressure for me. But I also think there's a lot of people in my shoes, and all of those people are in the same boat, in the sense of the way I pay my bills is I do brand campaigns and brand deals, and those will all just be shifting to Instagram. So social media has a lot of different sources of income. You have your ads, you have your story deals, you have your Amazon, you have your like to know it, you have your Shop My, you have monetization on YouTube and Spotify and all these things. So when one door closes, multiple doors open is how I'm trying to think of it. And I'm also trying not to stressed to the max because there's nothing I can do. It's literally out of my hands. And that's hard for someone that's a control freak like myself, but everything's going to be fine. It's all going to be fine. Please help. I have no sex drive and it feels like a chore. So, my question is, are you on any medication? Because that can severely affect your sex drive. And are you active, like in the gym, working out? Because I feel like my lowest libido points were when I was on birth control and when I wasn't consistently active. I feel like the more active I am, the more energy I have. Also, as I've approached 30, I'm a horn dog. Can't get enough of them. I'm like, you just lay there. I'll just use you. I'll use you like a little dildo. Not a little one. I swear it's big. David's like, God damn it, babe. So I'll say this over and over again. I feel like when you are thinking about it too much, you start to dread it. Like when you know, all right, we're going to have sex tonight, or like we're about to have sex, you kind of dread it. Don't think of it in that way. Think of it in the way of, I know as soon as we're done, I'm not going to regret it. And I had a great time. Like, for instance, last night, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit tired, mostly because we smoked a joint out in the jacuzzi. But then we had amazing sex and went to bed, and I was like, this morning, I was like, yeah, last night was fun. Like, we had a good time, you know? Sometimes morning sex also helps. If you don't want to do it at the end of a day when you're already tired, because that also affects your libido. Also, try to spice it up. You could do a cute little game with it. Like, there's those little sex games with like cards, and you can get kind of spicy with it. If you're not into that, that is okay. But I do feel like it depends on mental health, medication, being tired, and then like physical fitness. Thoughts on the Brie and Grace drama? It's so sad to see. I wish I could hug them both. So I went to Bora Bora with Grace for the Tart trip, and she is an angel of this earth. I love her so much. We DM back and forth every once in a while, but I DM'd her a couple days ago and she said she wants to come on Cheers. So I know she's on tour right now. She's doing stand up and she's so fucking funny. She's literally killing it, and I love watching her kill it. She deserves all the success and more. She's such a natural at this, and she's so witty and hilarious and quick on her feet, which is exactly what this industry needs. And I was honored when she said she would come on. So I'm waiting for her to respond to see where she's at, because I know she's traveling all over. But I'm like, girl, I will fly wherever the fuck you are to interview you and sit down, because I saw Brie was just on Alex's podcast. And I haven't watched it yet, but I'm pretty sure it was filmed before the Grace drama happened, is what I read. I think it was filmed and they talked about the Zach Bryan thing, and then Grace put out the statement on Instagram, and they had already recorded the episode. So I don't think I'm sorry, I don't think Brie had talked about that with Alex, but I did see the podcast where Brie was on BFFs talking about Grace. It's hard to say because being a person in this industry, I see a lot of people saying crazy shit about me too, that I'm like, that's not even close to being fucking accurate. Or like with my relationships. Like when the whole Cecily thing happened and everyone's like, I just know Avery was the worst friend to you. And I'm like, hold the fuck on. I'm gonna come on and say my shit and defend myself. So it's hard for me being in this industry to say, oh, I'm on Grace's side, I'm on Bree's side, I see both sides. I can't say because I truly don't know. I do know that I met Grace personally, and I think she is an incredible soul. She is so sweet. She's been so encouraging to me. She is just a really great gem of a human being. I've never met Brie, so I don't know. And, I do think it got kind of messy with the public pitting against each other, which I've experienced before with many of my friendships where people try to plot you against each other. And it's hard for it not to affect friendships. And I've had to sit down with some of my friends and we're like, it doesn't matter what the fuck people say about us. We know what our friendship is and we know it's real. All of it's outside noise. And sometimes that requires you to not post together for a while. And I've done that before because I'm like, I don't even want to post together and have people immediately say, some fucking bullshit about it being a fake friendship, or one's prettier than the other one, one's the nice one, one's the villain. Like, what the fuck is wrong with people? Why do people have to pit people against each other? It's really sick, especially when it's a friendship that formed outside of social media. When it's something that, it was a very much a true and real friendship like Grace and Bree, and then you become these massive public figures and it's people have all this shit to say. It's also really hard when you have a podcast together and your jobs are together. Like, for me, everything I do on social media is solo. So I don't have to mix my friendship and business in that way. And that's something I really empathize with them, because that's very, very difficult and it's become very messy for them. And I feel bad for them. But, like, there's a lot of people that are like, "Oh, like, I love watching you and Scott together on the podcast. He should co-host." I would never do that. I would never do that because it would ruin our friendship, and I know for a fucking fact it would. Which is why Scott is my one and only employee for the podcast. He's behind the scenes. I take him with me wherever I go, but it's not a competition of whose face, whose camera. If things change and Scott gets a better opportunity, I'm gonna say, "Fly high. I'm so excited and proud of you." But we don't need this made up drama about our friendship. It just becomes too messy. So I don't know what the situation is behind the scenes. I think it got messy really quick, and I feel bad for them because no one wants to have to deal with that bullshit in front of millions and millions of people, especially when it's a real, authentic friendship. And they've obviously been friends for a really long time. But Grace DM'd me and said she wanted to be on the podcast. So I would love to sit down in front of her and talk with her about it, because I want to hear what she has got to say. So Grace, DM me back, because I'll book my flight tomorrow to come see you, my girl. All right, guys, that concludes this episode. I hope you all enjoyed. I loved sitting down and chatting with you. I will see you next Monday. Cheers.